galaxy alone, there are billions of stars. At least one of them has the potential to support life.
Welcome to our cinema show here on Encore, where the house lights have dimmed once more, but that's not because the film's about to start. Movie theatres here in France had their hopes dashed when coronavirus lockdown measures were extended in the cultural sector, meaning arts venues will remain shuttered until next year. Well, it's a harsh blow for those who produce, direct, distribute, and of course go to see movies. Many in the French film industry felt that they were caught on the back foot last week, as Monty Francis explains.
Empty seats at this Parisian cinema, and they're set to stay that way for another 3 weeks, to the anger and incomprehension of those whose livelihoods depend on them.
Les cinémas ne sont pas des clusters, on le sait tous, et ils sont bien moins dangereux que d'aller à la gare de Lyon, de prendre le métro, d'aller à la cantine en entreprise ou d'aller dans les grands magasins.
With social distancing and caps on the numbers of tickets sold, cinemas had put in strict health and safety measures when they were allowed to open. This latest decision, then, is difficult to accept.
On a l'impression qu'il y a une volonté de museler et la culture, en règle générale, la culture, les loisirs, payent le prix fort d'un choix politique qui est de dire, de montrer qu'ils font quelque chose.
Quentin de Pieux Mandibule was meant to be released in mid-December. Promotional material and reviews for the film had already been printed.
Des parutions étaient déjà sorties, la couverture des Inrecuptibles, une publicité dans Télérama.
For this film distributor, the stop and start of lockdown is becoming difficult to endure. He's still not sure of the release date. It's the same story for the tennis drama Final Set, which now won't be hitting screens this year, to the disappointment of its leading man.
Peut positiver, mais la réalité c'est que c'est dramatique pour toute une économie. Mais bon, qu'est-ce que vous voulez, voilà.
Union representatives are less resigned, however. Some are now planning to take the matter to the Conseil d'État, France's supreme tribunal for administrative matters. They say they'll contest the decision on the grounds that it violates their fundamental freedom to practice their activity safely and within the confines of government guidelines.
Well, to discuss some of the repercussions of these measures, I'm joined by producer and screenwriter Michèle Halberstadt of ARP Distribution, who has dozens of films to her name: A Paris Education, Golden Years, and This Must Be the Place, just to name some of the more recent ones. And France 24's film critic Lisa Nesselson joins us too. Thanks to both of you for being here today. Now, Michèle, we're seeing outrage from people in the industry and also protests in the street from those who support the arts. But some professionals are going a bit further, notably actor and director Charles Berling, taking this to the highest administrative court here in France. Now, do you think a lawsuit, this judicial route, is the right approach?
It's an approach you use when you feel cornered, and it's the only approach left. I don't know if it's going to be any use. But I would like to go back to what people said on the reportage we just saw before. To me, the issue is not so much that they closed down the theaters, although we were supposed to reopen today. The issue is that we've been treated like kids. You see, you cannot close and open a theater like you close and open a door. You have to program it. You have to tell the audience about it. It takes weeks to put a program in advance. It takes weeks to reopen a theater. It's not like this stop and go that they're doing. So we have this feeling they don't understand how things work. You don't open a can when you open a theater. So it's a whole machine, a whole circuit you have to put on. So it's very hard to say to people, oh, you thought it was next week? Oh, no, sorry, it's not going to be. All the money we all spent, all the energy we all spent, all the belief we all had, here in the company, we keep having people back work and stop working, back to work and stop working again. It's terrible for everybody, and it's terrible for the spirits.
Well, the points you've just made are heartbreaking. France, of course, is offering more support to the arts than other European countries right now, but culture just doesn't feel like a priority for Emmanuel Macron. Do you think the current government understands just how important the cinema is to the people of France as well as to the economy?
And that's what's infuriating, because we're all trying to fight for cinema, for the fact that cinemas remain open. Look, at the moment they closed down the theaters in October, the figures were really good. We were really back into shape. People were going to the movies. People want to go to the movies. It's part of our DNA. So to close them down in such a a careless way is a way of saying you don't really matter. And I think they do think we matter, but they don't realize how deeply grounded this cultural aspect is in our DNA again.
We will be returning to that debate in just a moment, but staying with the consequences of this health crisis, the big news from last week came from Warner Brothers, who announced that all of their big releases, including the upcoming Wonder Woman 1984, will be released in theatres and on streaming platforms simultaneously. Now, Lisa, tell us more about this.
Well, Patty Jenkins, who directed both Wonder Woman movies, says that most filmmakers dream of having their work shown in theater and eventually later on home viewing formats. That on theatrical release day, to have your film available in people's homes, and not all homes, just the ones that pay to subscribe to, in this case, HBO Max, is incredibly disheartening. HBO Max is a thus far struggling streaming service owned by Warner Brothers, which is in turn owned by the telecommunications giant AT&T. So if there's a studio that promises to release all of its films on the big screen, then, says Jenkins, well, the top talents will go there. This new policy shows that these companies could not care less about their remarkable heritage. All they care about is money. One now finds articles in serious publications saying, oh, well, movie theaters had a nice 125-year run, but they've outlived their usefulness because we have flat-screen TVs in our homes. Well, the idea that brick and mortar cinemas no longer count is ludicrous. In the absence of a deadly pandemic, people like to go out to the movies. As Michèle just said, business was getting back up to speed. 2019 had the third highest box office in France in the past 50 years. Others have pointed out that if we reach a point of no return and regular theaters are no longer viable, well, then the kind of movies that get made will definitely change. Probably no more Godzilla vs. Kong, Dune, or Matrix 4, all headed for streaming on HBO Max. Platform subscribers are accustomed to having a long window, sometimes forever, to get around to watching a film. Well, as I understand it, each movie will only be on HBO Max for 30 days. Starting the same day the movie hits theaters, if there are theaters to hit, but after a month, each title leaves the streaming service. We talk about the importance of being inclusive, but in this model, which is allegedly only a response to COVID-19, customers are forced to sign up for streaming. In contrast, anybody with the price of a ticket can watch a movie in a theater.
Now, Michèle, Warner Brothers have been very explicit about the financial motivation behind this decision. Do you think the example could influence French businesses operating in the arts and cultural sector? Is it something we're likely to see coming here to France?
Well, I really hope not, but usually what happens in the US happens in Europe in the 5 to the 10 years of following. So I do hope I'm wrong, and I do hope Warner is honest when they say it's only as long as the pandemic is there and they won't, it's just an exception to the usual theatrical rule. But I honestly am worried. We're all worried. It depends on the willingness of the government. We have a fantastic CNC that helps us a lot, but I hope they remain on our side. It's a fight. You have to fight for that. It's not going to happen. If we do nothing unless things happen, this culture is going to fade away. So we really have to fight to keep it alive. Is there a will of the state to fight it? When there's a will, there's a way, but show us the will. We don't see it right now.
Well, finally, returning to a cinema and to a man who's known as an actor and an activist, it's easy to forget that George Clooney actually directs as well. His latest effort, The Midnight Sky, premieres on Netflix on December 23rd. Lisa, tell us more.
I was going to say his supreme achievement is those very clever coffee commercials, especially the ones with John Malkovich as God. This is Clooney's 7th film as a director in 17 years. Here he co-stars as Augustine, a grizzled scientist dying of an unspecified incurable disease. He's in the Arctic, and all the other people are evacuating. It's the year 2049. It's been 3 weeks since something incredibly bad happened, referred to only as result. This is clearly it. for planet Earth. Augustine decides to stay behind to try to make contact with a spacecraft called Ether on its way back from a multiple-year mission. Now, their assignment was to this planet, see if it's suitable for human life, and return to Earth. Although it means trekking through perilous Arctic landscapes in hope of reaching a powerful enough transmitter, this is what he's going to do. Now, the pacing is leisurely and the payoff surprisingly emotional after a very long buildup. The film structure takes advantage, though, of something movies lend themselves to in terms of toying with space. In this case, literally and time. If the world is ending and you only have enough time to watch one feature film, I wouldn't pick this one. But it does have a few worthwhile thoughts to convey about the nature of home.
Okay, well, thanks for the heads up, Lisa. And thank you, Michèle, for your insight today. We'll leave you with a clip of The Midnight Sky. Do remember you can get more movie news on our website and on our social media channels too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Why is it so quiet?
That's Ether. It's a spaceship that we hoped would be our future. I have to warn them about the conditions on Earth. I don't know all the details. It started with a mistake. There is an antenna that's stronger than ours. We get to that antenna, they'll hear us. Take a deep breath.